Arthur Vance vanished weeks ago, leaving behind a jagged, hand-drawn map that ends exactly where the deep water of Lake Viona begins. Believing his father is still alive, Leo puts on his diving gear and follows the ink trail into the freezing, dark depths. Deep beneath the silt, he makes an impossible discovery. A fully intact historic city, frozen in time, with open front doors and streets lined with glowing electric street lamps. But as Leo explores the silent, watery tomb, he finds a dry airlock inside the old post office, a fresh entry in his father's waterproof diary, and a terrifying realization that the pale-eyed shadows moving behind the glass windows are coming for him. Leo sat on the weathered wooden dock, staring at the cold, green water of Lake Viona. In his hands, he held a jagged, hand-drawn map. The map belonged to his father, Arthur, a famous historian who had vanished 3 weeks ago. The police found Arthur's car parked near the woods, but nothing else. Leo looked closely at the map. The ink trail crossed the hills, went through the trees, and ended exactly where the deep water began. Written at the edge of the lake were the words, "The city is still breathing." Most people believed Lake Viona was just a deep, empty body of water. They thought a massive flood 80 years ago had wiped out the old town of Viona forever. But Leo knew his father was not crazy. Leo put on his heavy black and yellow diving suit, strapped a bright flashlight to his wrist, and walked into the cold water. Leo swam down into the green darkness. The water grew colder and heavier. His flashlight beam cut through the floating green silt. Suddenly, a giant shape appeared in the darkness. Leo gasped as his flashlight illuminated a tall, wooden spire. It was a church bell tower. Leo swam closer. He could not believe his eyes. He had found a fully intact, historic city frozen under the waves. The streets were lined with quiet cars from the 1930s, their metal bodies covered in colorful green algae. Schools of silver fish swam through the open windows of 3-story brick houses. Wooden front doors stood wide open, as if waiting for owners who had left in a hurry. Leo followed the jagged ink lines of his father's map, navigating through the submerged streets. As he swam past a row of old shops, he noticed something impossible. A soft, warm light was bleeding through the silt. Leo swam closer to a metal post. Inside a glass globe, a filament was glowing. The city's electric street lamps were still lit, humming softly under the water. Leo's heart beat fast. He swam toward the old stone post office, which was marked with a red star on Arthur's map. The heavy brass front door was unlatched. Leo pushed the door open and swam inside. Inside the main lobby, wooden chairs and paper flyers floated lazily in the water. At the back of the lobby, Leo found a thick, heavy steel door. It looked like a modern submarine airlock. There was an iron will lock in the center. Next to the door was a glowing red light. The airlock was active. Leo grabbed the wheel and spun it. The door clicked, and he stepped inside a small chamber. With a loud hiss, the water was pumped out of the chamber. The heavy inner door opened. Leo pulled off his diving mask and gasped. He was standing in a dry, warm concrete hallway. The air smelled of old paper and ozone. On a metal table in the center of the hallway sat a waterproof yellow backpack. Leo recognized it immediately. It belonged to his father. Leo opened the pack and pulled out a leather-bound diary. The ink inside was fresh. Leo read the last entry. "If you are reading this, Leo, you followed my map. I found them. The flood 80 years ago was not an accident. The government flooded the valley to hide the vault. But the people did not drown. They adapted. They built the dome. They are watching us right now from the windows. Do not look into their eyes." A cold sweat broke out on Leo's neck. He looked up at the wall. The hallway ended at a giant, thick glass viewing window that looked out into the deep green water of the sunken city. In the dim golden light of the submerged street lamps, Leo saw a movement behind the glass of the houses across the street. Dark, human-like silhouettes were standing in the open doorways. They were not wearing diving suits. They were standing perfectly still, their pale eyes glowing in the dark water. Suddenly, Leo heard a wet, rhythmic tapping sound on the thick viewing window directly in front of him. A pale hand pressed against the glass, leaving a trace of wet silt. Leo backed away in absolute terror as a dozen dark figures began to swim slowly toward the post office, their eyes locked onto his own.